Hopefully, everyone can hear me now. So my apologies there. So I had stated off the top that this is a day to celebrate college football, typically. New Year's Day. I know it's January 2nd, but it's New Year's Day in college football and the culmination of bowl play. And of course, that was going to be our focus tonight. I found out probably later than most of you what happened in Cincinnati. And immediately flipped to the game and have caught up on the news concerning Damar Hamlin. And immediately thought, how can we talk about college football? How can we talk about the games today? Maybe we will at some point. But yeah, just it's difficult to watch. It's difficult to contemplate. Because these kind of situations are going on all over the country, all over the world at any given moment, people's lives hanging in the balance. But this one is broadcast on national television. And so we get to see, unfortunately, what is a celebrated event, a game, entertainment, within seconds become an incident where a young man, 24 years old, is struggling for his life. So I haven't seen the play. I haven't seen the hit. That's inconsequential, regardless of anything. So he apparently, the tackle was made. He was able to get up from the tackle, but then collapsed. And CPR was administered. And they dealt with him on the field for something like 21 minutes and then rushed him to the hospital and to an ICPU unit. So, just to discuss what's going on, I didn't even know once this happened, once I learned of it happening, which was quite a ways after it actually happened again. I wasn't watching the game. And then I just thought, my goodness, how can we talk about college football? And almost all of us at some point in our lives, we will deal, obviously, with the end of our lives at some point, all of us, unto every man and woman. But I'm sure many of you, if not most of you, and I'll include myself, has unfortunately had to deal with this concerning a loved one, somebody we know, whether that's a close friend or a parent or a sibling, someone within our family or a close friend that has we've had to deal with life and death circumstances, unfortunately. So we know how jarring this can be, and that it just wakes you up to a lot of reality and a lot of what's important, which we should be keeping that in mind and living like that each and every day and each and every second of every day, keeping in mind what's important, what's valuable. Health is high on the list. For many of you, you would say that that's the most important thing to you and to your loved ones would be health. and it's certainly near the top of the list for me and for what I hope for and pray for my close friends and uh, significant others, and certainly my children and the rest of my family. And for somebody, myself, and again, I know that I'm not unique in some of the situations I've had to deal with uh, at different times in my life and currently, um, where having conversations with doctors and nurses and medical assistants on a daily basis concerning how to best deal with life and death type procedures and situations is difficult. Is again when I tweeted out when I heard about this and thought, yeah, how can we talk about college football? Maybe if we're on here for I don't know how long, at what point we will have vetted all this out of our systems and we can talk some college football. Maybe we won't tonight. I don't know. But I thought, my goodness, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about because I'm not going to say anything that hasn't been stated. I flipped on the coverage on Monday Night Football and heard from Joe Buck and Troy Aikman and then Susie Colbert and everyone else on set, and they're doing their best to give this the proper weight and value that it deserves and needs, and while giving as much information as possible. And there's not a lot of information, but just to try to describe and share their feelings and their thoughts about the importance of uh, life. And fortunately, the NFL has made a proper decision. Who can play football, who can watch football, who can. Yeah, it's just should not even be. And I don't know where to draw that line, um, because certainly we've all watched NFL and college football games where uh, somebody was taken off in an ambulance and the game proceeded. Uh, but this is obviously a rare situation concerning how close it appears to be a life-threatening situation. All right, we do have somebody who's would like to join the show here, so we will allow them to do so forth, and we will get to the comments in the chat. And again, when I set this up or changed this from a bowl extravaganza bowl wrap-up show, hopefully highlighting all the bowl games and what happened on the field today, and we may get to that, I don't know, and then just thought, how can we possibly talk about that I didn't have any great words of wisdom for anyone, but would like to hear from you. And we appreciate our first caller here.
Hey, Mark, it's Dominic. How you doing tonight?
Hey, Dominic. I'm doing okay. How are you?
Uh, Doing all right, I guess. Well, the game, honestly, in my opinion, was going well until, that happened. You know, Obviously, my hearts and prayers go out to Damar Hamlin and his family throughout the night. As we get into the overnight hours, hopefully we get an update on Damar Hamlin. Uh, Hopefully we can get that sometime tomorrow. That's honestly what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, and I understand that hope. My hope's a bit different, but yeah, whatever information I received is inconsequential. I'm just more hoping and praying that he's first and foremost fine to live a normal life, and secondly, to resume his career, hopefully. Go Dogs is telling us here, report from Cincinnati, Fox 19 says he had a pulse, but was not breathing on his own when he left in the ambulance.
Uh, well, yes, indeed, prayers to Damar Hamlin. I mean, when he started in week 3 for the Bills, he's been doing really well ever since he started for the Bills back in week 3. He's been really strong on that defense for Buffalo ever since he started in the 3rd week. And I gotta say, he's definitely done a really great job.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with his NFL exploits this season. I don't follow the sport too closely as I once did, but
Uh,
yeah, I remember him from his playing days at Pitt.
Yes, I definitely do remember him as well from when he was with the Pittsburgh Panthers. Indeed.
Well, we appreciate you calling us, Dominic, tonight, and hopefully the next time we get together, we'll have more fun and more fun things to talk about concerning college football.
Yes, absolutely, Mark. You have a good night and try to stay safe out there. Have a good night, Mark.
Thanks, Dominic. I appreciate it. I'm here and I've got a television to my left that's got the ESPN coverage. And I even have a certain level of issue with television coverage of a situation like this. But they are absolutely doing their job. And that's why they're there. And to be a sports and entertainment network. And I'm not singling out ESPN. This could be, you could fill in the blank, Fox, CNN, whomever. Um, I don't know. I don't know how if you feel about and really think about the importance and the weight of the situation. I don't know. Just to continue on with it, but then again, what are you going to talk about? The NBA highlights tonight? Yeah, there's just no real good answer to what to talk about, how to act, how to feel. It's just a tough situation. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm a little bummed, obviously, at the moment. This was really getting excited. Huge Bengals fan. Really looking forward to obviously sort of letting loose and cheering them in a super important game. And at least it seemed important. A couple hours ago, it quite it's diminished in significance quite a bit here lately, and I'm just hoping and praying for Damar Hamlin at this moment. It was, I mean, it's not a whole lot more to say other than yeah. I mean, it's been an incredible week of football, and it's just this is a crash to reality,
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, I don't even feel it necessary. I don't know what we're going to talk about for the rest of the time that we're on here. We may talk about this the entire time, and this may turn into a number of other topics that we talk about that are connected to just the value of life and health and all those things. Or we may start talking some college football here in a few minutes. I don't know, because I don't want to have any type of false, you know. Uh, take some type of false moral high ground about at what point it's appropriate to start talking about anything else. Certainly, I don't believe in that, but I just didn't feel it appropriate and didn't want to and didn't think that anyone else would, and it just didn't sit well with me or sit right to carry on the show the way I had planned. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I could sit here and talk about what I think is important in life, but I don't know that anyone wants to hear me pontificate on that. So I have no great words of wisdom that everyone else isn't thinking of. Yes, thoughts and prayers, depending on your belief system and what you believe is effective and real and truthful in life, then just we will
Yes.
go ahead with that. Unfortunately, this is a situation in which it would do me well to have an assistant. I know that I posted 2 comments that I didn't want to post. Once I looked at them, I just saw the first few words or phrases in the statements and didn't realize how stupid they were. But anyway,
Yeah.
I appreciate you being here, Sean.
Oh, it's all right. And no, yeah, it's an interesting situation. He is currently, I have all, lifelong Bearcat fan. He's with, in the University of Cincinnati, Medical Center. It's a fantastic place. It's where my mom and all of her, brothers and sisters were born. So, I have the utmost faith in that crew there. I don't think he could be in better hands. And I did actually sort of experience something similar to this about 5-6 years ago, playing a pickup indoor soccer game. I watched the clip of him of Damar collapsing. Obviously, it was a very routine play, and there was nothing. Certainly, doesn't seem anything like skeletal went wrong there. A friend of mine suffered a sudden cardiac arrest. Right in the middle of the game that we were playing, and yes, had an underlying condition, and I mean, I don't want to speak too much because I'm certainly not a doctor. I don't know the difference in this situation, but the similarities, I vividly remember watching my friend fall, go limp and collapse in just almost the identical way that Damar did. And so if there is a silver lining, it's almost, from my experience with him, with my friend, because I'm almost positive that this is what he had, because they gave him a defibrillator. They gave him CPR. If something like that happened, he was in the best situation possible for that to happen, because the survival rate of a sudden cardiac arrest is 5%. But if you have the proper medical attention around you, it goes up to 80% plus. It's just most people, when they experience something like this, they're not around. They're living their daily lives. They're not around a defibrillator. They don't have access to professional medical staff instantly, which is what you need. So if something like this happened, if that's a situation with him, the silver lining is it's better to have happened now, because it probably would have happened at some point down the line with him eventually, because there's a condition that, and that's what it was explained to me. My friend who went through this, who lived with this, has a pacemaker now, is living with him, and that his doctors told him, you were very, very fortunate to have this incident happen when there was medical staff around and there was the proper equipment.
So that's a really good point right there, because the football aspect of this, when you're watching a football game and you see a violent collision, and I know that this particular hit was not, from what I understand, I didn't see it, but
there was nothing. It was less than routine. I mean, it was
gotcha.
Less significant than a typical football tackle, I would say.
So, not to speculate, but based on what you're telling me, this is more about a condition than it is about football. Obviously, the activity brought it on.
Yeah, it definitely can. Yeah, certainly stress can be an exacerbating factor. But if you ever have a sudden cardiac arrest, you do have an underlying condition, and likelihood is at some point in time. And this is just me, doing a fair bit of research, having gone through this indirectly myself. If you experience a sudden cardiac arrest, stress may bring it on, but you never know when that can happen. And if it happens, when he's driving down the highway, 10 years from now or something like that, that's probably going to be the end of him. And in this situation, he's probably going to survive it. Don't want to say too much, but this is the access you have to medical resources in a moment like this is huge. It's very serious. So, I mean, I should probably stop talking because I'm not a doctor, but I just, there is some reason to be like hopeful, be optimistic, and be, and to be, and if you have faith, if you're a person of faith, to really feel like the Lord's hand might be working in a certain direction at a moment like this.
No, we appreciate you don't have to be an expert. You're sharing your experience and what you've picked up from that experience. So,
yes. So, I mean, not much more to say today. I mean, this has been one of the best bowl seasons in recent memory, just to make it a little bit lighter. Wouldn't you say so? This has been.
Yeah. For certain reasons, it's a bowl season that I've taken less part in than probably any bowl season of my lifetime. But yes, it has been a great bowl season. Of course, the 2 playoff games have highlighted from an intensity and from a meaning standpoint have highlighted the bowl season. And we've had our various clunkers, but you are going to, anytime there are 41 football games to evaluate, but there have been some great games. I don't want to say it's the best bowl season we've ever had. I don't know. I'd have to go through every bowl season.
Did you say 41?
Yeah, we usually have 41. 41's been it's within 1 or 2 of 41. Wow. 41's been the number for a few years.
Wow, that's a lot of games.
Yeah.
Haven't paid as much attention in recent memory, but as a Bearcat fan, a fan of the AAC, very happy to see the Green Wave pull out that amazing, miraculous win today. I enjoyed it, and so, like I said, anything else, it all seems, more frivolous, more trivial at a moment like this, but it really, what I can say is that the things that give us joy and pleasure and in life, really are not frivolous. They're not trivial. It's important to care about things that bring you joy in life, whether they seem significant or not, whether they diminish in the light of existential threat.
Yeah.
This is what makes life worth it to me.
Absolutely. I agree as well. Yes, there's no comparison between pretty much anything that we're going to talk about tonight. If we're going to talk about football, if we're going to talk about just about anything going on in anybody's life, food, movies, whatever we want to talk about, obviously there's no comparison. However, each one of our careers, our jobs, because we were talking about the very essence of life. We're talking about, the very man's breath. But yeah, we shouldn't feel bad about those things. We shouldn't feel bad that we discuss football on a regular basis. That's why we're here. And I have gained a lot of I've gained a lot of inspiration from all of you who have, I'll put it this way. Sometimes I believe and think about what I do on here and what we do, but it obviously is my business and career, and all of you fortunately take part. I think of it as frivolous. I think of it, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? It doesn't really matter. What good am I doing anyone? And I appreciate that I get a lot of consistent feedback from people that say that there's more to this than just football. Um, there's community, and there's uh, depending on circumstances like these, situations like these, incidents, and this comes up every, I want to say, 4, 5, 6 times a year, that we focus on some more important issues in life, whether those are life and death or they're just social issues or whatever they are, where we hopefully do a little bit more good than we do on a daily basis just talking about football. But what keeps me doing this and so forth, and I hope this continues and becomes even more important, or more impactful, I should say, is that people tell me that what we've created here, and I'm not just talking about myself, I'm talking about a lot of people involved and all of you who participate, because if you didn't participate, then it would all go down the drain and cease to exist. That there's a community here, and there's support, and there's an outlet for people to be entertained, to have friends, even if it's just not directly in person, and all those things give me make me feel good about what we're doing, because many times I don't feel good about what we're doing from the standpoint of it being meaningful.
Well, I can tell you this: our sports have done a lot of good for this country. You think of everything, of all the social causes, the civil rights movement, positive,
Sure.
how enormous sports was in the evolution of that, and how much of a great cultural export it's been for this country. Kids around the world wearing Michael Jordan jerseys, and how much this really helps people come together. I've been around in large immigrant communities before. I've lived mostly in urban areas through my life, and one of the major things that people come to this country and have trouble with the language, don't know the language at all, or don't know it well, have issues with our customs. One of the major inroads they have in sort of becoming American is through sports. It's one of the cultural touchstones that we have. It's one of the things that unites us as people. There's enough out there that can there's enough BS out there that can make people hate each other. And sports, it can be toxic in its own way, for sure. but I think for the most part, it teaches great life lessons to the youth, and it allows us to really appreciate and come together as people. And I don't know Damar Hamlin at all, but I know that he loved football and he was living his dream. And I think he would probably recognize the importance of continuing I've never been around an athlete who ever wanted the world to stop for themselves, if that makes a lot of sense. I mean,
Yeah, and I don't want to take for as much as what you're bringing up is very important, and I actually have some things to say about it, and I don't mean to cut you off, and I would otherwise not cut you off, Sean, if there weren't a few people waiting.
Yes.
Because if you were the only one, we just continue this conversation, because I am not tired of listening to what you have to say about this, but because the latest point that you bring up is a good one. So if you could just wrap up your thought right there.
I was pretty much there, so I'm happy to sign off and wish you the best of luck, and everyone, if this makes you think of do anything else, it's just make you appreciate the things in your life that are most important to everyone, whatever those may be. Most likely family and health. And I mean, this man's 24 years old. We don't know if he'll wake up right now, and that's and life can come at you like that. Life's not fair, but it's a gift. Enjoy every moment you have, because there's nothing more valuable than the things you love, the things you enjoy, even if that is a stupid little football game.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate you stopping by.
Take care, Mark.
So we're going to take the call from Michael here in just a second. Sean, at the end of the conversation, brought something up that I think's important, and I don't think anyone has the perfect. It's almost like when there's some kind of law broken or transgression. I don't think anybody has the perfect punishment. We can all have our various opinions on what that should be, and this is similar in that, it's like for those of us who experienced 9/11, at what point do you move on with things that are supposed to be entertainment or fun? There's no right answer to that. I do think it was definitely the right move for the NFL to cancel this game, suspend it, whatever the term you want to use, continue it at some point, cancel it, just mark off the game as not being played, figure out the playoff situation later, whatever they're going to choose to do, but not to continue to play football tonight. I don't think there's any question that is the right decision to make. But past that, in terms of just like I stated off the top, I came on here thinking I don't feel it appropriate or right, nor do I want to talk about the day in college football. But I don't think we should be ashamed or embarrassed or feel that we're doing something wrong if at some point that we do. Because some of the comments that Sean made make me think about most recently the last experience of this I can remember. Well, you know what? I was going to say Brett Bielema against Michigan, the Illinois game versus Michigan. His mother just passed away a few days prior, and a lot of people would think, well, doesn't he love his mom? Why is he coaching? I've never felt that way, never thought that way. I never wanted to ever criticize or judge anyone for their response to somebody's death. Some people have to detach and cry and grieve in a very demonstrative way. Other people want to talk about it, not talk about it, go back to work, not go to work. I think all those options should be available for anyone who's in a state of mourning to handle it in the best way that they know how. Louis Riddick, the ESPN former NFL player, and ironically also a Pitt Panther, was mentioned during the broadcast. I'm trying to think what game he was doing the other day. Anyway, just a couple days ago, it was mentioned that his mother had passed. I don't know how recently, but he decided to do the broadcast and felt that's what she would want him to do. And I, for one, when I pass, I know that certainly I would hope that there would be some people that would care, but I can't be helped at that point. So please, I want my kids and my family, live your life and go on and move on. And if there's something that you can do that's going to help somebody that particular day be productive, hey, go do it. Go invest in somebody else's life. Michael, how are you doing tonight?
I'm all right. And yourself?
I am doing just fine. I know others aren't, but
yeah,
I'm doing okay.
Yeah, I know. And Burke is going to be all right. They're going to keep him overnight for observation. I don't know if you've seen the hit where they had to cart him off earlier today during the game in the fourth quarter, or if you even watched the Purdue game today.
Oh, I did not. No, I did not see that.
Yeah, because he cleaned his head pretty hard, and they had to take him off by the cart. But last thing update I got about 12 minutes ago from about Damar is that His vitals are normal. He is sedated. They did intubate him, and they're running some tests on him. But everything is back to normal for his vitals. So
Where did you see that report?
on Twitter.
Well, just understand who's your source on Twitter. Twitter is not a source.
Yeah, true. I mean, I got a couple from a couple sources. One of them is from a guy I know who I umpire with. He's an assistant news director for a TV station in Indianapolis. So
Okay.
and then a couple other people who works for him in the sports department and stuff. But no, I just want to say
If
my
that's
thoughts.
true, that's great news.
Yeah, my thoughts and prayers goes out with him and his family tonight and stuff like that. And I gotta say, I've been also umpire and stuff like that and referee. I had a scary incident myself this summer and stuff to where a kid was going for a fly ball, tripped on the warning track, went head first into the fence, stopped breathing for 2 minutes. Fortunately, everything he came out, he only had a slight concussion. But Mark, you can't take this sport for granted, man, because you never know what's going to happen.
Michael, I also don't mean to bypass the incident that you brought up when you started the phone call, but I didn't know what you were talking about. You just kind of dove in, and I thought you were talking about the Damar Hamlin incident. So
yeah, I was
Purdue
saying,
player. You said there was a Purdue player who left the field today.
Yeah, Burks. He was a wide receiver. He was going. It was the fourth down play. Slammed his head pretty hard onto the turf, and they had to remove him by a cart and stuff like that. So, but the good news is everything's gonna be all right with him. So,
okay.
But like I was saying, I didn't know if he's seen. Not that it was a moot point because it was a blowout, which I'm not surprised. But I didn't know if he might have seen the highlights of it, the play or something, or seen any of it.
I did not. My football viewing started extremely late in the afternoon because I was dealing with a lot of medical situations here.
Hopefully everything's all right with your family.
Yeah, just continued medical situations. So I had every DVR running on all the games and wasn't able to catch up with everything. So I missed this crazy finish to the game between Tulane and USC. I started watching the game, and then I found out about the ending, and I unfortunately, and I'm not going to go through the whole process, but anyway, I didn't get that bit of the game recorded, and so I didn't even see that to see what happened exactly. And then I started watching Purdue and LSU, and I got to 21-0, and then I saw the score online, and I thought, what's the use? And Illinois, Mississippi State, I'd like to watch that game, but I have not seen any of that game either. I did catch the Rose Bowl. I was able to DVR that, and I caught up with it.
All right. I didn't get a chance to see that, but what happened with Cam? Guys, his name is escaping me. The quarterback from Utah.
Cam Rising.
Was it a concussion or was it a leg injury?
That appeared to be, I saw the play. I remember him leaving the game. That was a leg injury, wasn't it? Yes.
I don't know.
It wasn't. Yeah, I don't remember.
No, but no, it puts sport things into perspective, especially like this. And I just seen it hit. It didn't look like he was that much of a hard hit or nothing. It was just like maybe a routine tackle. He just got up and just went down.
Well,
but anyway,
he got crunched by 3 dudes. I know that. But yeah, it was lower body related, leg, knee, ankle, something like that.
Okay, hopefully it's not too serious. But getting back to Hamlin, I seen the hit a few minutes ago, and it just looked like it was a routine tackle for him. And then he got up, took one step, but no, I just want to pass on the good news and stuff I just seen a few minutes ago and stuff like that. If I hear anything else, though, I'll just post it on the in the chat there.
All right, Michael. Well, I appreciate you calling tonight.
All right, Mark, have a good one, man.
Thanks, Michael. You too.
Yep.
All right. We do appreciate everyone being here. And again, if you want to join the show, I will drop the link in the chat again here. Certainly whatever's on your mind concerning the NFL or college football. Well, college football, the NFL obviously took precedence because of Damar Hamlin. for good reason. And so that's what I think most of us are thinking about here tonight. But certainly, we are not going to shame you if you would like to talk about something else at this point. We've got John on the line.
Yeah. Hey, Mark.
Hey, John.
So I've been posting the fundraiser. So Damar Hamlin has a fundraiser called the Chasing M's Foundation.
Yeah.
So I dropped that in. Everybody's been kind of sharing it, and I vetted it with a couple of like real media sources before I posted it. But
do we know what that is?
So they were doing a community toy drive, but they're taking donations in general for the foundation. So,
Okay.
so that's what's happening. They've raised like $604,000, and most of that coming in the last like obviously hour. So just channeling it into something positive. But obviously, thoughts and prayers go out to the family. Hoping that Damar Hamlin is okay. It was, I mean, seeing it and then watching the broadcasters try to fill the airtime. It reminded me a lot of other tragedies in the past. Where what do? I mean, you've got to fill the airtime, but they didn't really have much to talk about. They didn't really have much to report. So
yeah, there's only so much information, and you're going to state how you feel and that this is horrible and this is so much more important than sports. But you can only express that so many ways and make it meaningful in any such way. Yeah. Of course, you have, there's another aspect to the reason you have players involved, as they can provide, experiences that they've had that are maybe similar, or just kind of give the take of what it's like to be in a locker room and to travel with these guys and be with them almost the entire year, and where you're almost like a family.
Absolutely. So the hospital said that there would be that said that they have a Twitter. They said that so apparently there will be some type of update tonight. So I'm not going to really speculate until we get that official update from them. But so listen, people in chat, you want to hear some college football? Let's see if we get a couple of yeses. I'll talk college football.
Yeah, we can talk some college football. I don't know what else, but anyone who wants to call or comment, of course, in the chat, you can talk about whatever you want as long as it's respectful. I am always open to you guys talking about. You can talk about the 1947 Rose Bowl in the chat if you want to. Whatever you want to talk about, it does not have to be related to exactly the topic we're dealing with, as long as it's, again, respectful. But yeah, again, we were not looking down on anyone if you want to be the icebreaker to talk about football, because we can only talk about this so long. But again, once the ice is broken, if you want to call and talk more about the situation in Cincinnati and Damar Hamlin, absolutely.
Absolutely. And listen, yeah, I mean, I think everybody's going to process this in their own way. But I remember right after 9/11 on David Letterman show, he had on Rudy Giuliani. And so he asked him, can we be funny tonight? And his response was, well, I guess you might as well start now.
Yeah.
A little bit of a back and forth there. And I think that kind of opened the floodgates up a little bit. So, we got to have moments like that. But
absolutely. And not to cut you off, John,
yeah.
That is bringing back just memories, not as specific as the one that you brought up, but yes, after 9/11, and there's been some other national type tragedies where, yeah, for those of us who like to hear some comedy, at some point, somebody has to say, you know what? Is it appropriate now to, it's been 3 days or it's been 7 days? There's no magic answer for that. Let's just be humans and just we will all understand that we're all touched by these kind of situations in different ways, to different extremes. And And yeah, there's no magic timing.
So the last couple of days have been, you know, I've been a little quiet. I was on immediately after the defeat just to take the lumps, but I couldn't call in because by the time the call-in show got on, I was like, okay, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm tired. but I figured I'm gonna call in. I'm gonna take my medicine. You know, the fact of the matter is, uh, Golden Blue Dude actually said this on his video that you know, listen, this is a really good Michigan season. Okay, 13-0, and now the two big wins, Penn State and Ohio State, in my view, look even better after, you know, in the lens of the playoff. But obviously, another bowl game loss for the how many straight years now, and Buckeye Mike asked me on, I think it was the Young Guns. He was like, "Well, if you lose to TCU, will people start wanting Harbaugh gone, et cetera, et cetera?" I'm like, "No, because it's the season that we just had. Never had it before in the history of the program." And I still stand by that. Was I shocked by the result? Oh yeah, I had it completely topsy turvy. Completely topsy turvy. I had it 42-20 Michigan, and that obviously is not how it turned out. And you know, people have been mentioning the refs. People have been mentioning other things. Here's why we lost. We didn't take them seriously enough across the board. Matt Weiss wanted to show his Tuesday homework on Saturday, and let's try a Philly special. Let's try to move away from what the identity of the team was. And let's also not get points twice in the red zone. Let's you know, I mean, JJ threw a couple of pick sixes. TCU capitalized on every single one of those mistakes too, and you got to give them a lot of credit as well. They showed up to play, and I underestimated them. I think Michigan underestimated them. I think everybody except TCU fans and Melissa, who's been on, to her credit, has been on all the videos across the college football ecosystem, banging the drum for TCU, and she was right, and I wasn't, and we weren't. A lot of us who speculated it, but you know, sometimes that happens, and that's why you play the games, and it's not just an on paper type of situation.
I don't want to speak necessarily for Melissa, but I think she would say this because she did say this to me a number of times. And I'm glad to hear that she's been all over the place. But we've known Melissa for a long, long time, and kind of lost track of her for a few years, but brought her back recently. So anyway, she made the comment to me a number of times leading up to this game. Not that she was like, I'm guaranteeing a win or TCU's got this or anything, but she felt reasonably confident, but still like, I'm not necessarily expecting a win. I know we can win. It won't surprise me, but that was always her her approach and conversation with me.
Yeah, and it was the same with you know, she made the circuit a little bit. She was on the Young Guns. She you
Nice.
know, and the approach was very much, you know, I'm not saying TCU is going to smash Michigan.
Yeah.
But they're in a position where they can win the game. And Sonny Dykes, I mean, God, what a turnaround! It 1 year. Look at what they've accomplished in a year, and now they have a shot to win the national championship.
The situation and turnaround that I liken it to, first and foremost, without giving it exhaustive thought, is Gus Malzahn's first year at Auburn. He took over a team that went 3-9, and they came within seconds of winning the national championship against Florida State in 2013. It is funny because we had Melissa on a few weeks ago on the Michigan show, and and they were much more confident. I feel as though they were saying all the right things to a large extent to give TCU credit, but there were some comments that were leaking out and coming through about, okay, come on, Big Ten plays different type of football. The Big 12 doesn't play defense. Those comments were made. So then when I had Melissa back on, she kind of referenced some of those comments. I'm going to learn.
We got DeReal in there saying he wants to.
We can bring DeReal on here in a second. I will say this before we bring him on.
Yeah.
That I should have a statistic for this and keep track of it, but it seems as though I need to go with my gut more because my gut was leaning heavily TCU. Yeah. Not like leaning heavily like this is going to be a blowout, but I went conventional. Michigan wins, but TCU cover was my prediction. I went like 30-23 Michigan, but I just I had a gut feeling about it. But again, it would not have surprised me in any way had Michigan won. I did pick them to win, and they were the favorite. And it did make total sense that they were comparable from a speed standpoint and athletic standpoint, but that Michigan just had a sizable advantage in size and strength on both sides.
And TCU played their game. They forced Michigan to play their game.
Yes.
And Michigan was on the back foot. And that's not a position that JJ and the team in general were used to dealing with. So,
absolutely. Because think about this, folks, that put any two good teams, I'm not talking about two teams that can't stop anyone. I'm talking about two upper echelon teams in college football. Any two top 25 teams, they are not playing 51-45 games on a regular basis. That's an aberration. Mm-hmm. That was a TCU game.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, it was.
So I think that's it. I'm curious to see what DeReal will want to contribute here if he's gonna bang the SEC drum, but we'll find out.
We will find out. DeReal, what's going on tonight?
Hey, DeReal.
Well, first thing I want to say is thoughts obviously go out to Damar Hamlin.
Absolutely.
Hate to see it with anybody. Doesn't matter what team they're from, where they're from, or anything like that. Just devastating. Hopefully he'll be okay. Ruined a otherwise good day of college football, pro football, sports in general. But one scoop.
Yeah.
You got hypnotized by the Hypnotoad, man. What happened?
TCU beat us. I mean, and you got to give credit to them, but Michigan also beat itself. Now, when you combine 2 pick sixes, a failure to get it done in the end zone, a Philly special or Ann Arbor special or whatever you want to call it. That's, by the way, that's the first time I've ever seen the Philly special successfully been defended against. I'm sure you guys can rattle off 15 games where it happened, but I don't usually see the Philly special not work. But they did a great job of defending it. And so TCU not only played their game, they got off to a good lead and forced Michigan to play defense and play on the back foot, not what they're used to, but also every single time Michigan made a mistake, TCU capitalized on it.
So what it sounds like to me is what you're saying is Sonny Dykes out-coached Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah. I mean,
and this is where I was going to kind of go with it with Mark.
Moment, yeah.
Mark, I know Sonny Dykes has only played one season for TCU, but is he already like a top 5 head coach?
Well, isn't that going to be an interesting coach's ranking decision for me to make here once we get to the offseason? If
he wins the title, he absolutely is. I think would be in the top, right?
I think there's a good argument right now he should be up there.
Well, my personal ranking is not about, it's not about history. It's not about legacy. It's not about a career or a resume. It's about who would you hire right now? Who is now, of course, you have to rely on history and not just go overboard based on one season. But yeah, something in that range. Top 5, top 10.
And I mean, the coaches he's going up against are pretty high up there. So just like in the team sport, you got to boost them up based on the win. wins.
The coaches
But-
he's going up against, Jim Harbaugh.
Jim Harbaugh, for
Who did he
example.
go up against before that? That's
I
I know
all
Chris
the-
Kleiman's
Steve
a good coach.
Sarkisian.
I've got all
Sark.
sorts of respect.
I was gonna say Sark. Yeah.
Sark, really? Are we bringing him to
wins.
the table as an elite coach?
Not elite. I'm saying, but if your question is who is he faced, Sark did get to 8 wins.
I would say Mike Gundy and Chris Kleiman are probably the two best
Mike Gundy.
coaches that he's.
What about Lance Leipold for Kansas? He's a pretty good head coach.
He's coaching Kansas.
Yeah, but you got to remember, you got to grade on a curve because nobody expects Kansas to be in the national championship or anything like that. I mean,
Well, no. I'm not. We're not here to grade or rank Lance Leipold. It's more about who has he coached against that both has the coaching chops, but also the team to be a threat. Do you follow me there? Like,
yeah,
who has Sonny Dykes faced? It's not like he's gone through Dabo, Ryan Day, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart. So I was just, once you made that comment about look at the coaches that he's faced, I don't think it's that daunting.
Jim Harbaugh, obviously, probably be at the top.
So,
of the
Mark,
list.
what you're telling me is it's kind of like Michigan's non-conference schedule this year.
Well, it's considerably better than that.
That's a shot
Present
right there.
company,
I've heard it's all right to reel. I've heard so many shots about Michigan's non-con at this point that it rolls off the back because it's warranted, and I think every single Michigan fan would have rather played UCLA. I
know
certainly
it's
would have loved to play UCLA.
I know it's not popular at this point to be taking shots at Sonny Dykes, and I think Sonny Dykes is phenomenal. We've had Sonny Dykes on here 3 or 4 times. I would love to have him back on here. I should reach out to the TCU sports information department. But anyway, but I saw him take some shots at SEC scheduling, and I just didn't understand it in light of who they played themselves in non-conference. And I shot back on Twitter, like, are you serious? You played Tarleton, SMU, and Colorado. What are you talking about? Like, I'm not understanding. You're a great coach. You've done a phenomenal job, but I'm not understanding you taking shots at SEC schedules.
Yeah, I think maybe it's just because some people, even in the coaching industry, don't understand how significant the gap between the SEC and everybody else is.
Oh boy, where are we here, Daryl?
This Belmont Stakes with Secretariat in it. That's the gap between the SEC and everybody else.
You just watched this bowl season, and you're still. And hey, I'm right there with you on the SEC has not done anything to the negative for me to not rate it as the best conference, but I don't think it's like this is not Secretariat or whatever your reference was there. Like, to me, this is not. It's not.
It
substantial.
is really, 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 really decisive to me.
And this has been proven to you by Georgia beating Ohio State by 1 point, or
The
having
collection
a 6-5
of wins
bowl
that
record
the SEC have, I believe, is so significant.
based on
This
what?
year? Wait,
yes,
when?
non-conference play plus bowl wins that they've gotten.
So we're counting the 1 point win against Texas that Bama
It
had.
has to count. It's a win for the SEC. We can't pick
Okay.
and choose which bowl games count.
Okay.
Every game has to count.
Yes. Missouri losing to Wake.
And by
count.
the way, one scoop, John, Alabama is arguably the 4th best SEC team, and Texas is the 3rd best Big 12 team if you look at their conference
Okay.
record.
And
so-
they played a game that was a toss-up.
Yeah.
Yes, but
It was a toss-up.
it was on the road for Alabama, and
Yeah.
Alabama won, so they get the credit.
Oh, they get the credit, but let's be consistent with previous conversations. It's not just Alabama won, Texas lost, whether it was 52-0 or 20-19. No, there's an evaluation of how well did the teams compete against each other, and it was like this.
Oh yeah,
Earl,
but there's other
can we
results
talk
other
about
than that one.
Kentucky? Can we talk about Kentucky being a measure of the SEC? because that really didn't go so hot for you.
They're 1-1 against Power 5 competition and non-conference games.
Okay.
Yeah.
They
So
got blown out by
that's
Iowa
blown out.
21-0, and they beat
Okay.
Louisville pretty convincingly. Like,
Okay.
I think
the real, I don't know what has transpired over the last couple of weeks that has made you even more high on the SEC dominance here.
well, LSU, what they did to Purdue today was pretty convincing. I know Purdue didn't have all their players and stuff, but that was pretty substantial. Mississippi State
Absolutely, it was. Yeah.
beating Illinois, that's a somewhat like seeded matchup.
Yeah.
That's beneficial for the SEC. So, and
The
some of their
6-5 in bowl games.
yes, but you got to give in context to some of the record, like the South Carolina Notre Dame game. I don't think should hurt the SEC. You got a 500 SEC team
Sure it
going
should.
against one of the better independent schools.
So
8-4,
Bama's
8-4.
1-point win should impact it, but that win shouldn't. That shouldn't impact it.
No, it should impact it, but not nearly as much.
Okay.
Like just saying 6-5 bowl record and removing all the context, I don't
Well,
think is
I'm
fair.
not removing the context. That's why we're here. We discuss it, but I'm starting with the fact that it was 6-5. South Carolina Notre Dame, to me, was a great game, but it wasn't like a Florida Oregon State situation where you had a team playing up in rank against another conference. Of course, Notre Dame's more difficult to judge because they don't play in a conference, but you had 2 8-4 teams.
Right. But look at who Notre Dame's beaten this year. Now, I know they've lost to Marshall and Stanford, but they did beat Clemson.
Yeah.
So it's not like Notre Dame's a horrible team. They're pretty good. And for an average SEC team, if you look at their record, I think that's pretty good.
So the SEC's performance during the bowl season has you higher on the SEC than you were a month ago. That confounds me, since Georgia
They beat Ohio State.
was fortunate to beat Ohio State.
Hey, I said, Mark, I thought Ohio State was going to win.
Yeah. I mean, was that razor thin?
Like, there are so many things that we could bring up that could.
What about
changed the outcome
Alabama,
of that
Kansas
game.
State?
Yeah. What about Ole Miss and Texas Tech?
Oh, that should hurt the SEC, but I think Alabama beating Kansas State's pretty good.
Absolutely, it is.
Sure.
Especially with the way they beat them.
Yeah, they manhandled them. And at 6-5, the Arkansas-Kansas game was, that could have been an easily 5-6 record that we're talking about.
Right, but close wins are still wins.
Sure.
Close losses are still
No
losses.
Sure. I'm just saying that.
I think what I take issue with is your initial hypothesis, because everything that you're saying now, I have no problem with. But what you said in the beginning is that the gap is widening, or that it's large between or that it's never been larger between the SEC and the other conferences. That's what I have a problem with, because this recent bowl record just doesn't prove that out. In fact, it proves, I mean, maybe not the opposite, but at least it's getting, I think it's closer than it was 4 or 5 years ago. I think,
No. I doubt it. Tennessee destroying Clemson. I mean, they Tennessee made it to where Clemson never had a realistic chance, I believe. So, and Clemson's the ACC champion. 2 of their losses are against SEC schools. That's pretty good for the SEC. The SEC beat the Pac-12 champions, beat the Big 12 champions. More check marks for the SEC. They would be able to play the Big 10 champion, but somebody's team in this call didn't live up to what they were expected to do.
Yeah, we didn't hold up our end of the bargain. Yes, I agree.
So if the SEC could have had the argument that they beat every other conference champion, which I'm not sure how often in college football history that's ever happened.
Well, think of it this way, too. Sitting here 1 year ago at the same time, we were coming off the SEC winning 2 dominant games in the playoffs and playing a championship game against itself versus what we just witnessed with Georgia.
Yeah, I understand that, but
and
those aren't the only games that should count. We can't just look at I don't think we should just look only at the playoff games.
Well, of course we're not.
I think we should look at the whole body of work.
Those are actually the first playoff games I've mentioned.
Can we honor because we've got two really great super chats here, and I'm actually curious to hear what Darrell thinks about Gixxer Squid's question here. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. So he's asking us how many of the Final Four and Big Six bowl teams do you predict will return next year? I'm assuming that means to that level.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Heisman vote was today, would it still be Caleb Williams?
For the second question, I believe it's still Caleb Williams. It wasn't.
Me too.
I don't think it was his fault. I believe he set a Cotton Bowl record. USC needs help on defense. I think we can all agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think he should be punished for that. Let's see. As for his first part of his question, how many is going to make the Final Four? I think Georgia's going to be in there next year. I mean, they're Georgia. Michigan or Ohio State, one of those two, and that's it. So I think two of the Final Four will make it, two of them won't. And it's going to be really hard for Michigan and Ohio State to go back-to-back years with them playing in the same division.
Yeah, that was kind of a lot of luck of the schedule and final results that led to that, because USC would have gotten in if they had won they had taken care of business. So I agree there. I was asking some Ohio State fans about how they feel about McCord coming in next year. And the response I got was not really sure. We also have a freshman, I forget his name, that looks promising too. Mark, what do you think about McCord, or who they have after Stroud goes first round in the NFL?
Well, I'm going to base this on really nothing that has to do with me evaluating him, because all I've seen him do is throw the ball in spring game. So you can only take so much from that.
Great game, yeah.
And if he's the backup quarterback at Ohio State, he must be pretty darn good.
Sure.
To have that. So there's talent there. And if they're going to roll him out there as the starting quarterback, then if they're not in the transfer portal reeling in a quarterback to replace him, then they must be pretty confident. I'm not going to elevate him to Bryce Young, but I'm going to make this comparison. When Mac Jones moved on to the NFL draft and Bryce Young had only thrown a handful of passes, but Nick Saban named him the starting quarterback before spring practice, that told me everything I needed to know. And when I ranked him like the second best quarterback in the country to start the season, and people were like, how can you do that? And I said, well, I understand that I can't do it based on what I've seen, but I'm making a projection. And he won the Heisman Trophy. So I was trusting Nick Saban's judgment that if he said, because all through those A.J. McCarron years, Jake Coker years, all that, there was always a quarterback battle, because if they didn't have an incumbent, there was a quarterback battle. And then he just says, Bryce Young's our starting quarterback. Good enough for me. So if Ryan Day's going to say, not that I'm elevating him to Nick Saban status by any stretch, but he knows the passing game and he knows quarterbacks better than anything, that I will be confident in Kyle McCord being a top flight Big Ten quarterback. Maybe not CJ Stroud, but a top flight Big Ten quarterback next season.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm the one saying this, but look at like Alabama, Nick Saban, when he's had a bowl that isn't in the playoffs, he gets that team fired up and gets to the playoffs the next year. Because we played him in 2019. And it was mostly the same national championship team that then won the Natty the next year. And they literally went all the way and won the title. There's Tide Guy speculate, and I think it's completely rumor, conjecture, that Cliff Kingsbury is somebody that Alabama might be looking at, because it doesn't look like he's going to be long for this world in the NFL at the Cardinals. So yeah. He may go to the college ranks, but I think Michigan could easily run it back because they have most of their team coming back. JJ's coming back, and a lot of these other teams in the Big Six and Final Four, et cetera, they're losing their quarterback to the NFL draft. So so that may be a thing, and give, JJ did have 2 pick sixes, but I would also argue he was the reason we were in the game towards the end. It could have been TCU 51, Michigan 20. I mean, it was literally going in that it was that much of a situation where TCU was like in control of the game, and you need a quarterback like JJ to even give yourself a shot.
I will say about the Final Four for next season that, yeah, I'm going to have to be the most confident in Georgia. They're just recruiting out of their minds. And they've got, whether it's Gunnar Stockton or who the next quarterback's going to be out of the room of 5 stars, they'll be all set there.
Sure.
And then after that, I don't know that, this is going to be the first time in a few years that I've given anybody else consideration in the Big Ten, but I might be really looking at Penn State as a possible team that could break the Ohio State, Michigan wall in the Big Ten. And then beyond that, USC is an obvious choice for the Final Four. But how many of the Final Four? Yes, the current Final Four. Georgia's the obvious selection there. All right, the Big 6 bowl teams you predict to return next year. Okay. And the Heisman was, it's still Caleb Williams. He was remarkable today. Yes.
Yeah. And then there was another $10 one that I think also mentioned a reel.
Okay.
From Lemansky, maybe.
Oh, Lemansky, we appreciate it. I forgive you, MVP. Tequila not recommended after New Year's. Shutouts. Cool against the SEC.
Thanks, Lemansky. And yeah, tequila and I don't mix very well.
It's going to be funny hearing all off season about how Florida beat Utah, but since it wasn't in Utah, that means easily Utah's going to win by like 25, 35 points. And I think Florida's going to go in there into Rice-Eccles Stadium and might give something for the Gators. For the Utes.
The Pac-12 still had a respectable postseason, but it
drastically underperformed because of the day.
At the end, it got kicked in the head a little bit.
And we got to put into context that the Pac-12 had a respectable postseason because of what they had done the previous years.
Yeah, 3-4.
Oregon State 30-3 on Florida.
I get that. But Mark,
Florida has a big reset to do next year for sure.
I get that. But Mark, something I've been bringing up every single time is the Pac-12's winless streak still continues against Group of 5 teams. Mark, still continuing.
Yes, they lost 2.
I thought it would definitely end this year. Tulane, Mark, Tulane beat USC.
I got to run the numbers on every major conference against Group of 5 because the Pac-12 just routinely gets embarrassed against the Group of 5.
Tulane played their face off, though. I mean, you got to give Tulane
they're a really good team.
Credit.
Tulane's a great team. They're a great team for what I believe they are, team. But I don't think they're a top 10 team in the country.
No,
top 15.
Right. I don't think USC. I think USC should be in the top 10 in the country. Especially with the quarterback they've got. I mean, Caleb Williams is a great quarterback. And for them just to, I don't want to say waste away the season, but it kind of feels that way with these last 2 results.
You think that's, wait a minute. Wait. So USC went 4-8 last year. I'm sounding like Tim. USC went 4-8 last year. They bring in Lincoln Riley and they go 11 wins and 3 losses. I don't know how you could possibly say that the season is a what did you say?
We need to put context of where that was at because the last 2 games is where I felt like it was kind of waste because they were right there to possibly probably making the playoffs. And it just went from that to making the Cotton Bowl against Tulane to losing to Tulane.
By 1 point.
Still losing to Tulane.
I would argue a pretty good Tulane team. 12 wins.
Yeah, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season USC is going to the Pac-12 championship game, going to a New Year's Six bowl game, and they're going 11-3, I would have said that's a great accomplishment for this. I picked them to go 9-3. I don't pick bowl games that don't exist at the beginning of the season. So I
11-1. 11-1. Whoop.
You picked them 11-1?
11-1. I got the videos probably back in August, September on our call-in shows, but yeah. But
yeah, I'll vouch for One Scoop John. I saw him in the chat a bunch hammering home that 11-1 prediction.
Look who's jumping on here.
Here we go.
There we go. This is when I don't even need to participate. This is when the channel runs on its own. There we go. I'm going to work on my 1 through 131 rankings here, and we'll let Tim and DeReal go at it, I guess. Tim, how you doing?
I've been better.
Hey, Tim.
You guys did a phenomenal job as always on the USC post game.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of that. I'll tell you what, I want someone of you three to ever stop me. If USC ever gets shut out and embarrassed on national television, that I'm not going to come on here and start smacking other schools. Promise, as a friend, I want you guys to stop me before my team gets really embarrassed and I start talking about a team that was 4-8, now 11-3. And I'll quote Lincoln Riley, we're not going anywhere. So, I mean, I'm very happy with the season. You're looking
hold on. Isn't USC going to the Big Ten? So aren't they going somewhere by definition?
In 2 years.
Yeah. Well, they're going to have to play Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State.
I think these two gentlemen will back me up that USC has held their own against Michigan and Ohio State over the years.
Yep.
And Penn State might throw that in there as well.
Oh, yeah. Definitely Penn State.
How did Utah do against Penn State today?
We didn't play Penn State today. Hey, so
no, how did Utah do against Penn State?
We had 3 losses on the season, and like I said in my show, everything to Tulane. You know what I mean? In life, you get opportunities. The winners seize the opportunities, and the losers don't seize that opportunity. And USC lost. You know, I would have loved, Mark, you bring up the ESPN predictor. What do you think the ESPN predictor was at about 3-minute mark of that game? USC up 15 or 14, whatever it was, 14 points.
Yeah.
I mean, and here's the thing. I didn't think about this till later. There's 2 things about that game ending was really bugged me. We're all jumping on the defense, and for a good reason, right? And it was horrible. But if I told anyone here, USC's going to have the ball with how much time was left that final drive, you know, and all I got to do is get a couple first downs and the game's over. I mean, I would have taken that, you know. And then going back to USC season, though, it is disappointing. Any Trojan fan comes and says, "Oh, we did okay. It was 11-3. We're great." I am shocked with what he did in 1 year. Yeah, I like the way everyone catches Lincoln Riley's press conference. I think he puts it best. I'll try to paraphrase it. Anyone that's not happy with 11-3 after 4-8, and it's not even just the numbers, you guys. Like long 30-year, 40-year season ticket holders at USC, just diehard bleeding USC, stopped getting season tickets. They're like, you know what? The administration doesn't give a shit. We don't care anymore. We're done with SC football. And as much as you guys don't believe that SC or West Coast football exists, it exists. These are tickets passed down by generation to generation. And people say, you know what? We've had enough. And that's how bad USC was. And now you have it to where this Riley comes in with a bad roster, turns it around and makes them patchwork. And I said, again, you guys will back me this up. I said, we are not deep. We are thin. We are totally thin. We're like paper thin. And we were down to our 8th offensive lineman today. I mean, and we were losing 2 All-American linemen, a Remington finalist, and an All-American left guard, and you lose those guys. And then you lose your right tackle, who's been there all season, was our old left tackle. We moved to right tackle. It was makeshift to begin with. But USC lost 3 games. 2 of those games, last minute, 1 point. I'll repeat that again. Last minute to a good Utah team, a very good Utah team in Salt Lake. And by the way, DeReal, you could say that about playing Salt Lake. There aren't many more difficult places to play than at Salt Lake, at Rice Eccles. There just aren't. And the biggest reason is the altitude. If you watch SC sucking win at the end of that game, why they win for 2, a big reason why they win for 2 is because the USC was gassed. They were exhausted at the end of that game. And those guys play all year round at that altitude. So at the end of the day, USC to get it done. Hats off to Tulane.
Can I do my
defense.
best to be the voice of reason on this Utah-Florida outcome to finally get this settled? There's a balance there between the two extremes of throw that game away, it didn't count, Utah's better, we know they're better, versus Florida won, they're in the SEC, they beat Utah, Utah's the Pac-12 champ, Florida's the Pac-12 champ. There are extremes there. What we saw was an extremely competitive game in which Cam Rising made a decision and made a play that he normally wouldn't. And Utah was, from my recollection, it's been the first week of the season, so it's been a while. Utah was outplaying Florida in the fourth quarter and really wearing them down. But Florida hung on for the win, made a goal line stand, and won the game. So we have to give Florida credit for winning the game.
Oh, yeah.
There is a huge difference. When I say huge, there's a difference, to what degree we can argue all night, between playing in Gainesville, Florida, and playing a home game in Salt Lake City. And I will agree with Tim that is one of the more difficult places to play in college football. It's been proven over the years, and I believe it to be true. And I also think that Gainesville, the Swamp, is a tremendous home field advantage. So you're not going from playing a Northwestern Indiana game at Northwestern versus playing in Bloomington, Indiana, where it's like nobody has home field advantage, so it's about a point. We're talking about two extreme home field advantages, so that has to be taken into consideration. And then the rest of the season, obviously, taken into consideration. We know Utah to be a better team than Florida. They just weren't on that night. They didn't make the plays. They lost the game. Credit Florida with the win. Did I say anything that was not at least reasonable there?
I think you're perfectly reasonable.
Okay.
Yeah, I also have a hard time with, and the Utes are yelling at me about this, calling them the best team in the Pac-12, because what did Penn State beat Utah by? How many points?
21, right?
What does that have to do with anything in the Pac-12?
At least 2 touchdowns. What?
Hold on, Drew. I think they won by 14, right?
Oh, 35-21.
Yeah, 35-21.
Okay.
Utah beat UCLA beat Utah in that same field by 14 points with Cam Rising the entire game.
Yeah. Okay.
And I watched.
Penn State was missing a lot of talent.
Well, I mean, so was
Utah. They had
Utah.
some serious opt-outs. Well, you just mentioned Cam Rising.
I mean, getting knocked out of the game. Well, but listen, how different is that? How different is that passing game with Clifford if you have blank his name out, the third someone help me out, Utah corner.
Oh,
I mean that guy's a first round
Clark
corner. Phillips. I mean, that guy is legitimately a good player. We can go back and forth on who's missing, who's not. I'm just saying is it to call. I don't think they're the best team in the Pac-12.
But you understand,
so as long as we don't do that, we say they might be the best. We can almost go to might be.
Well, that's where I'm at. They might be. I believe, and I've stated this before when we've had these Pac-12 discussions, that it is harder to look at the top tier of the Pac-12 and distinguish those teams. It's harder than any other conference in the country this year. The difference between USC, Utah, Oregon, Oregon State, who'd I miss there? UCLA. It's like, now UCLA faltered to a certain degree. USC elevated. So there are some differences there. But coming down the stretch, I was like, I don't know who's the best team. They're like
on any Saturday. Yeah, I'm with you, Mark. Yeah, I'm totally with you. I mean, UCLA gave USC all it could handle in that game. I mean, that's the way. Any one of those teams are really good. That's what I'm saying. As long as no one says, I just keep hearing this. Oh, well, the third best team in the Big Ten beat the best team in the Pac-12.
By seeding, that's.
I know, but by seeding, technically, if we look at the runner-up would be Purdue in the Big Ten. Right. Well, no, I mean, hey, Mark, listen.
By record, you know what the deal is. Let's go by record. and Penn State is the third best. Penn State, if there's a clear number 3 team in any conference, it's Penn
Absolutely.
State.
Crystal clear.
They're
Yeah,
definitely.
no, listen, I'm just giving you a hard time, and I
They
just
wiped out everybody else, and they lost to Ohio State and Michigan. They were clearly the third best team in the pack in the Big Ten, and they were taking on the Pac-12 champion.
That's the only reason why I'm saying the Pac-12 is so good this year, is because you take any of those teams, right, and outside of certain teams in the country, actually, what? I think almost any team in the country, they could give them a run. I'm not saying USC with our defense, and UCLA with their defense, but I don't know. I didn't see a lot of defense in this weekend either, though, to be honest, from almost anybody that went, wow, a USC or a Washington offense couldn't do that, what that offense just did. I didn't see.
Let me tell you, Tim, Iowa's got a pretty good defense.
Okay, sorry, I left out. I'm talking about in the big. You are right. You're absolutely right. Again, I think it was Erica. She said, "Can you imagine if we had USC's offense and Iowa's defense?"
Oh yeah, look, that's
an
natty. That's a natty team.
Iowa's exceptional on defense and special teams, but they have to be left out of the argument because you actually have to bring an offense to the game as well, and that eliminates them. And that's why they lost 5 games. So yeah, we're talking about upper tier teams, and Iowa's not, because you have to bring an offense.
Yeah, but I mean, going all the way back to USC now.
Yeah,
the USC season was brought up by Darrell.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I called in. USC lost by 1 point twice on basically the last play of the game, right? I mean, realistically, with about a couple seconds left, twice to two solidly well within top 15 teams. I mean, you can't discount that. I'm not saying USC is a national championship team or belongs to be in a championship game even. I'm not saying that. But anybody who's not looking at this season for USC as an absolute, without a doubt, huge success, I'm a bit surprised, because I watched the defense this year, and as bad as the defense was this year, holy crap, you should have seen it last year, because it was horrible.
Darrell, am I correct in stating that partially your point is that USC started 11-1? They had those really good wins against UCLA and Notre Dame to put them in a position to make this really something. And then they lost these 2.
That's correct.
Well,
if you look at it from a 10,000 feet view before the season, I would agree with everything Tim has said. But if you're talking about from what we know now, it felt like they were on the cusp of something great, and it just kind of slipped out of their hands.
Put it this way, Tim.
Look, anyone that watches defense today knows that if we had played in the playoff game, it would have been an absolute, I think it would have been an absolute shootout, and USC loses by 14 points or like that, somewhere in there, if they were in the playoffs. I think USC, I watched those defenses. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I take it back. Sorry. Because I do think that Voorhees didn't just opt out. He's actually injured. I know Nealon, our Remington guy, he was out. He wasn't playing that game. So I don't think, but with both of those guys, USC would have been a shootout with those teams. Yes.
So Shoelace Sooner asked something, which is kind of directly related to this topic. So he gave a $10 super chat. Thank you, Shoelace. And he was basically asking, how much stock do you put in ranking conferences on bowl games outside of the playoffs, where everybody's basically playing, except like JSN didn't play, but pretty much everybody played.
I can't find that.
It might be too far back, but he was saying, for me, it's hard to judge with all of the opt-outs and transfer portal entries going on. And I will agree that it's hard to look at it. I mean, I still do, but it's hard to look at it when there are players that opt out and everything, but some don't. Saban had everybody playing pretty much, and
that's a fair point, though, right? I think everyone would agree that's a fair point.
Yeah,
it's fair.
These are 2 different teams. The teams that played at full strength, and because again, when you're opting out, it's not your second string long snapper that's opting out. It's usually a first round or second round draft pick. So that's definitely going to affect the outcome of games. So that's a valid point.
Yeah, in no way am I going to erase Purdue losing by 8 touchdowns today.
That's
at the same time, they're very dependent on their passing attack, and They lose the guy who catches 100 passes. They lose one of the best tight ends in the country. They lose their starting quarterback and their best defensive back who's going to the NFL draft. But then I start watching the game and I only made it to 21-0. Then I'm like, okay, I don't need to see any more of that. And it's mentioned LSU doesn't have 3 of its 4 defensive linemen because they've opted out to the NFL draft. And who knows who else for LSU. So those kind of games are tricky. Well, if that would have been a close game, those kind of games are tricky. I don't think anyone's arguing that Purdue's better than LSU. But to John's point, as far as I know, Kansas State was near 100%. Bama obviously brought its stars. You got to give Bama a ton of credit for blowing out Kansas State. Other games were kind of like, wow. The Kentucky-Iowa, you talk about a game. Well, Iowa, obviously, regardless of who steps on the field, they can play defense, and they still didn't really play offense. They had like 200 yards of total offense. They still couldn't move the ball. Oh, they had 2 pick sixes. If that's not a classic Iowa outcome, you score 3 touchdowns and the defense scores 2 and the offense scores 1. And it was probably set up by the defense.
Yeah, I was disappointed, Mark. We almost had 18 first downs in the game and 18 punts in that game. But Iowa, in their last drive, ruined it by getting 2 first downs. I mean, we could have had perfection. That would have been perfect.
I mean, Purdue.
I
will say this on Purdue. I mean, they were a shell of a team, and losing your head coach and play. Remember, he's the play caller.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's like losing Lincoln Riley, because now Oklahoma was able to still do okay because they had Bob Stoops in the bowl game. So they still did all right, but I mean, it's tough when you lose not just some of your best players, but then you lose your head coach and your play caller to Louisville.
Well, I mean, Oregon had to deal with that with Dillingham going, and so there are teams that do that. I hear you, John, but that's the whole thing. With opt-outs, with coaching changes, it does throw. If you're looking, there should be like a regular season chant, or you should do like Mark, you should like regular season best teams. And then before the bowls, because the bowls do become a bit,
unfortunately, because just on the surface, looking at the names that are playing in these games against each other, it's like these should tell us a lot. These are great matchups. Bama's playing Kansas State and Oregon's playing North Carolina, and all these matchups should be like, wow. We get to see these teams that we would otherwise not get to see, that are upper echelon teams in their conference, play each other. Penn State, Utah. I give Penn State a ton of credit, and I think that's a valid result based on what I know of the opt-outs of both teams. But still, even if the opt-outs are measured to be even on both sides, we don't know what the impact of the opt-outs would be. Maybe the Penn State guys wouldn't have made that much of an impact, and the Utah guys would have. You don't know.
I don't think I personally gave Penn State enough credit. I just didn't. I think that they played exceptional in this game. I'm just saying this is not the same Utah team that USC faced in the championship game. Is all I'm saying.
Sure.
So we have Steve Dace's burner gave $4.99. And said, yeah, Michigan is, I'll say this one, Michigan's not a top 10 team. They got exposed. I'm done defending Jim Harbaugh. This is him saying this. And postseason bowl record is inexcusable. Fire Jim Harbaugh. I'm sorry, but we're not going to fire Jim Harbaugh after the first 13-0 season in our entire history of the program. Beat Ohio State, won the Big Ten championship, fell short against a very, very good TCU team. No one can deny that now. They are really, really good. And we made so many mistakes that they were able to capitalize on them. You just can't do that against really, really good teams when you're playing them.
Now,
but we're still top 10.
One thing about Harbaugh that I think has to be alarming for you guys is, and I mean, I know I'm beating up. I was really surprised that USC hasn't done better in recruiting. And I noticed Michigan's really is this sustainable against Ohio State, who's again recruiting where they usually recruit up at a very elite level? And I know we could say, well, look what's been happening lately, but I mean, is this something that can be done if Michigan? I guess I'm saying it's off this really great season. I thought USC would get some traction, right? I thought that Michigan would get some traction, and it just appears like that hasn't happened. Is that a concern for Wolverines?
I think it's you'd think so, but if you look at being number one in the transfer portal, which that shocked me, by the way, because normally it's really hard for players to transfer into Michigan. The academic standards and credit, like how the credits work, it's really hard to transfer in.
John, I just want to correct you. 24/7's got you at number 3. Florida State, or number 4. Florida State, Colorado, LSU are all ahead of Michigan currently.
On the when did that happen? We were number 1 for a while. But anyway, okay, top 4. That's fine. That's still really good. That's much better than I think anybody thought we were going to be, because transfers we're not you. I mean, we got Olu, we got 1 or 2 solid ones, but this has been a good transfer season. I would say as far as traditional recruiting, I think that I think we got to do better next year. And next year you've got Jaden Davis, 5-star quarterback that we're battling Clemson for right now. We're the final 2 teams as far as I'm aware. So that getting a 5-star quarterback obviously would bring up the class quite a bit. So I would hope that it's a better class, because I think we're 18 or something like that, and that's not going to cut it. I think Jim Harbaugh interviewing for the NFL didn't help, but I think it just has to do with there's the state of our college football universe right now with NIL. There's teams throwing bags around. I don't know if that's the right strategy moving forward, because now everybody who got a bag last offseason, they're transferring to the school that maybe they wanted to play for. So they're leaving A&M, they're leaving Miami, they're leaving these schools, and they're transferring to other schools. So I think that some of that's the landscape of college football. But I would hope that next season, with Jaden Davis leading the pack, you're looking at a top 10 recruiting class.
Well, one scoop I got to ask you about.
With the transfer portal, you're going to see a lot of action between now and summer anyway. So, I mean, being 1, 4, or 8 right now is not going to make much of a difference in about 6 months. So that's going to change a lot.
Yeah. By the way, here's a fact for you. Colorado has 17 commits from the transfer portal. 17.
Yeah.
That's probably why they're ahead of
prime
Michigan.
time. They got prime time, and they're working that. Listen, Prime is working that hard, because he has to deal with a 1-11 roster and an organizational turnaround. He's got to work that transfer portal hard.
And some happy, hungry donors that are going to be licking the chop. Yeah. So, I mean, this is, I think that the Prime thing, I think that's going to level out. He got his 1 5-star was his, the cornerback. I forgot his name.
Travis Hunter.
Hunter's going to try. That's his 5-star. And then they got some 4 stars. He's got his son. So they got some players coming over, but, we'll talk about the transfer portal, because there's going to be a lot of action between now and June, July.
One scoop. I'm hearing some. I've heard some rumors. I'm not sure how credible the rumors are that Jim Harbaugh's looking at a job in the NFL.
I knew this was coming.
What do you think about
this? I think that he has said that he is enthusiastically coming back to coaching the Wolverines in 2023. However, if the Colts offer him $12 million and full control, then that's something he's going to consider.
And I'll tell you what,
anybody would.
I don't know, John. Maybe it could get a little bit better, but you got to strike when the iron's hot. And right now, off of 2 back, get back to back, it'd be a great time for him to say, "Remember, you guys wanted to fire me a couple of years ago? Well, I'll see you later." So I'm just saying that could be an issue as well.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously Michigan is his alma mater. Very, very famous quarterback for us in the 80s. So I think that does play into it a little bit. He lives, he's by his family, he's by his dad. So there's a lot going on there as far as, it would be kind of a life shift. I do think he is eventually going back to the NFL because he has this competitive itch. He's a competitive guy. His brother has the Super Bowl and he doesn't. As long as that's the case, he's going to have that itch. And I think everybody, I understand it. Michigan fans understand it. The players understand it because they're all trying to get to the NFL too. So they actually, I think, were more understanding than a lot of the media and others who were talking about it. But yeah, I think eventually he's going to go to a team. I could see the Raiders being a team once McDaniels has if he has another subpar year. Obviously, you've got Derek Carr getting benched. That looks like a situation where another year of low performance. Harbaugh is friends with the Davises, so it's very possible that the Raiders would be in play.
I'm not saying records or national champions, but there's a lot of similarity as far as career-wise with Harbaugh and Pete Carroll. Meaning you're called a washout or it didn't work out in the pros. You go to college, you redeem yourself. And those guys have, like you brought up John. I mean, so there's that family rivalry. There's also the added issue of the failure the first time. And as SC fans, we always knew, if you know Pete Carroll, he's so damn competitive. You knew he was not going to stay at USC. He wanted to go and prove people wrong and go off to the NFL. And I think you're right. It's only a matter of time. But is this the right timing for him? And I'm saying, here's what I'm saying though. If he finds the right team, like you said, I don't think he's going to jump to a bad team where he's going to fail. Right? He's the smart man. He's a look where he can succeed.
Right.
And like you said, have control. That's a big thing.
I think the one place I'd be shocked if he goes is the Broncos, because they're stuck with that Russell Wilson contract. Maybe he can improve, but he's getting up there. He can't do the athletic, crazy thing, Russell Wilson things that he used to be able to do. So he's got to be more of a pocket passer, not really his strength. And it's showing in the games. So I don't, the Broncos are saddled with that contract and the cap space. The Colts are the one team out of this crop where obviously Harbaugh played for the Colts. He's in their I think it's called the Ring of Honor. So there's a lot of history there. But it has to be the right scenario. Is the GM situation one that he is going to be okay with? Because remember, that's how the 49ers situation cratered, was that he didn't get along with the GM, right? So it needs to be the right GM situation. He needs a lot of control over the program and almost like a co-GM. That's what he wants. And so it's going to come down to what team gets the closest to the things that he wants. Otherwise, he'll stay at Michigan, where almost everybody's coming back. They're poised. We get Ohio State at the Big House next year. It's poised for it's an easy schedule again. You got cupcakes in the non-con, and all things look like another 11 or 12 win season. So I think the Colts would be the one job that he might consider. Otherwise, I think you would look to the Raiders next year. And
then Erica's comment, I think it's for you, Daryl. We had a quarterback who was third string, and he managed to not get sacked and picked off every 5 minutes. That's why we shut out Kentucky.
Erica, bring in the heat.
Okay. If I can have a minute,
Tyler Romanski, she is my favorite Hawkeye. Go Hawks.
If I can have a minute to comment on this, okay. Here's something I don't understand about Mark Stoops, and I'm going to question the decision he made. So you have a quarterback who throws 2 pick sixes before halftime, and then you don't decide to bench him.
And he's not JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, I understand.
JJ McCarthy.
Yes.
He can fall out.
Clearly, Wade and McCarthy are just right there in skill level. I'm not sure how much of the Iowa game you saw, but I don't think that's anywhere close to true. I would have benched him and put in Deuce Hogan or the other guy in at after halftime. I mean,
you're going to put your third stringer against that Iowa defense. I'm thinking it probably would have been uglier.
I'm not sure if you saw. I'm not sure if you saw the Kentucky game where they didn't have Will Levis against South Carolina. Any option for Kentucky is available with the quarterback's play I saw in the Music City Bowl. You've got to do anything. Do something. Put a wide receiver in that quarterback like they did with Lynn Bowden.
Yes, I was just going to say, go back to the Lynn Bowden offense from a couple of years ago. He had to play the entire season, and he just ran out of the Wildcat, and they went like 8-5.
Yeah, we beat Kentucky beat Virginia Tech. They beat Frank Beamer in his final game.
Yes,
on
they
a
did.
touchdown pass as well. Do something like that. Try to get a spark. It's a bowl game. It's not going to have to be all season. Kentucky's going to have Devin Leary and probably go 6-6 or 5-7. So
Ooh, you're not feeling good about Devin Leary in Kentucky next year?
have you seen the schedule we play, Mark?
Well, I know you play in the mighty SEC. That's by far the best conference in college
Who are
football.
your 4 powerhouses you play this year?
In in non-conference.
Yeah. Are they co-ed schools? What's going on? Who you playing?
Okay, hold on. Give me a moment. You're gonna like this, Tim. We play
Community
Ball
college.
State.
What?
Ball State.
Okay.
The Cardinals. We play Eastern Kentucky,
We'll look out. Yeah.
Akron,
Hey.
and then Louisville.
Okay, well that's a solid team, at least.
Yeah.
Hey, what?
They will be with I think they will be with Brom.
They have to play Louisville. They're forced to play somebody.
Right.
But the sad part is, I've looked at Kentucky's schedule. Kentucky plays Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, at Vanderbilt. So revenge game for Kentucky right there at Vanderbilt. And then Florida. And then it probably goes all downhill because Kentucky's got to play at Georgia. And then Missouri. Then Tennessee. Bama. I just see a string of L's after going 5-0, if that's possible. Just L, 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 L.
That is the back end's pretty damn tough. Yeah, I'll give that to you. Devonta Swirl, $5. Did y'all notice all the near comebacks in the bowl games? For example, the Liberty Bowl, Arkansas had a 38-13 and blew it. I saw one today.
Yeah, there was one today for sure.
Yeah, saw that one.
By the way, if you're was it Mario Williams who decided to grab the ball at the 1 yard line?
So that was a weird. Okay, so here. Are you talking about it was
the kickoff?
Yeah. So there was a lot of people kicking that around, and we had a little bit of debate on our show today. He did. Mario Williams did the right thing. I mean, that's what they teach you. He signaled fair catch. It was in the corner. It wasn't in the end zone. I wouldn't watch the replay. It was about the 3 yard line. And I mean, 99%, 95% is going to go into the end zone or out of bounds. Sure. But it's a live ball. You don't want a live ball bouncing at the 3 yard line. You go, you make the fair catch. But here's the weird thing. My dad brought up actually. He's like, when you have Rayleigh Brown returning all of your kicks for the past maybe 5 or 6 games, and then all of a sudden you put Mario Williams out there because he's the guy who's an experienced sophomore, right, instead of the freshman. But yet you had Rayleigh Brown. How many? I mean, all those touchdowns. How many practice kickoffs did he have in that game? What, a couple dozen? So then you bring out. It's just like how many times you see the fumble when you bring in like you go under center or you change something up. You don't get clever, and he fumbled at the 1 yard line.
You're protecting a lead, and they got clever when you were trusting Rayleigh Brown in important games like Notre Dame and UCLA in the Pac-12 championship game.
It was weird. I didn't catch. I mean, I'm embarrassed I didn't catch it. My dad's like, did you find it weird? I'm like, yeah, that is pretty weird. That's what's called overthinking it in coaching, I think. You know, I think.
Something else I
overthinking.
don't understand.
Yeah,
overthinking it.
But sometimes I understand.
like calling
why
it Philly
somebody
special?
would overthink it. Like I don't even understand what the overthinking was.
I don't know what the thinking was. I think the overthinking was we're putting a veteran guy in instead of a freshman. But when you're in the 13th game or the 14th game of the year, the guy's not a freshman right out of high school anymore. He's caught probably, I don't know, upwards of maybe 30 kickoffs during the last 6-7 games. So, I mean, why not just leave him in?
And he's proven himself in high leverage situations against big teams.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm usually up till 3 o'clock in the morning because usually the Pac-12 games are late anyway. I am not freaking watching that game, at least not for a week, because again, you're up 15, you're cruising, you just have an offense that can't not get a couple first downs, and then that happened. That's when, oh shit, they're getting a safety. Oh shit, they got a safety. Oh crap, we're kicking
Something
off.
else I don't understand, I haven't heard it been talked about, is the plays in the end zone at the 1. Why not do like a quarterback draw or put it in your best player's hand to get a few yards? I don't understand the hands off.
Well, no, you needed to get a first down there. Let's be very clear. You watched our defense, right, Darrell? You guys all
Yeah,
watched
of
our
course.
defense.
I saw the game.
You needed to salt that game away with some first downs. I think the thinking was on first down, run some clock. So try to maybe get out. And they did actually earlier in the game. They're by the goal line. They got a couple of yards. You guys have to remember this. And I said this from the very beginning. USC's offensive line is very talented, but very thin. And we're missing our All-American left guard. Guess where that tackle came from? The B gap on the left side. That's exactly where that came from. Guy shot right through, and that was it. You know,
Right, but do you understand what I'm saying?
championship teams and winning teams have depth on the line, and that's what we
Right,
don't
but
have.
instead of handing the ball off, put it in
Play
Caleb.
action.
Do an RPO. Do something like that where
What I
Caleb
was
Williams
screaming.
had-
Yeah.
That's what I was screaming. Why not roll him out? Why leave him in the pocket? Why not roll? Caleb throws best on the run anyway. Why not roll him out? Drag a couple of guys across. A little safe little pitch and catch, right? Maybe send someone deep, and yeah, we can second guess it all we want. The fact of the matter is, USC opened the door. Tulane, a good team, John, you're right, took advantage of that fact and beat them. It's that easy.
Well, you remember going back to the scheduling. You know, I saw people talking about Kentucky scheduling. Michigan's schedule for next year in non-conference.
That's bad.
East Carolina,
Yeah.
UNLV,
Yeah.
Bowling Green.
That's what everybody's doing now. Like that's the fact. Everybody and if you look at the SEC conferences, it's one fewer conference game, and you're playing the likes of I don't know, the Citadel and Austin Pay or P or however you say that. I mean, teams like that you're having to face off
But
against.
I
so
do
you can
believe
make an argument.
I
either
do
way.
believe everyone in the SEC is playing one difficult non-conference game
Like
at
decent.
least.
I'm pretty sure the rule by the SEC is they must play at least one Power 5 non-conference opponent.
Okay.
That hasn't been around too long because the likes of Ole Miss and Mississippi State, their big game used to be like Memphis.
Well, Ole Miss plays SC to start the year in 2025. LSU plays SC 2024. That's why you're saying that all the teams do this. No, not all the teams. USC's playing. Think about this: Notre Dame and LSU, and then their conference schedule. Oh, sorry. Actually, in 2024, we'll be in the Big Ten.
Oh,
So we'll be in the
can't
Big
wait to
Ten,
see that.
right? So
Yeah.
in 2024, USC will start out with LSU in Las Vegas, then a warm up with San Jose State, and then at the end of the year, finish the season with Notre Dame. So I mean,
I'll take back what I said about everybody, and I'll say that it's a theme. It's a theme that I'm seeing in college football, where and there's going to be exceptions to that theme, and but in general, what I'm seeing is scheduling to get to the playoff, or to try to get to the playoff, and and playing the teams that you legally can get away with playing. But there are exceptions, and you brought them up.
This 2-year sequence by Michigan not playing anyone, that's not happening elsewhere. That happened because of the UCLA situation.
Yeah, that sucked. I mean,
I'm
love
pretty
to play
sure
UCLA.
there's a significant gap between Kentucky's goals and Michigan's goals.
hey, we're stacking up on some super chats. You guys, there's a lot of if you want your comments to go up, please send a super chat. It doesn't have to be $20. Just send a super chat in, and we will address.
$1.99. You could say something.
We'll address everything you want to go. Here's our next one from again, go Hawks. Forget Harbaugh. NFL can have Brian Ferentz.
I hope, just for you, Erica, because you're so awesome, I'm putting out into the universe Brian Ferentz going to the NFL. Just for you.
Maybe as like a consultant somewhere.
As a bench warmer.
A wide receivers analyst.
Analyst.
Receivers analyst.
Speaking of go Hawks, Lemansky, awesome, man. This was for you. Could you read this? Darrell, do you want to read this one for us?
Sure. Kentucky whiskey makes you turn on your head coach. So sad, MVP. But your offense worse than the Hawks, I understand. Without Will Levis, I believe he's right, which is tragic, I would say.
Yeah, talking about opt-outs, that's huge. That's like O'Connell. I mean, you lose a lot of your offense with that.
Still could potentially be the number 1 overall pick. Still potentially.
Could be. Maybe.
Heck, maybe he's projected somewhere around the top 10. So
If he is, Daryl, I hope you took note of all those people that made fun of you and others, because I stayed out of that conversation because I am not an NFL draft guy. I love the draft when it occurs, but I am not a projection guy of the NFL draft. So as soon as I heard Will Levis, #1 pick in the NFL draft, I got to say I was taken back by that, but I didn't argue it because I'm not a mock draft guy.
Now, this I'm not going to put it up because there's not a super chat, but and I'm going to actually name the person. So USC had a visit from Karma. I'm trying to figure out what exactly did USC get a visit for Karma for? I'm just comments like this always
I wonder if
mystify
this is
me.
an Oklahoma fan who's still upset that
Could
Riley
be.
left Oklahoma.
Oh no,
they're
no,
still
oh my
upset
God.
about
No,
that
wait, we
a
just
little
found out Narduzzi's burner. I now
Oh.
know Narduzzi's burner. There you go. That's the guy right there. Okay, my bad.
Wow.
I'm going to throw in a shameless plug real quick to let everyone know that we've got a time for our show this Thursday. So this Thursday at 5:30 Eastern Time, Steve Dace and myself go live with the premiere of our show, The One. So how you can participate in this is a couple different ways. One would be to send me topics. So we are going to select one topic to debate every week. We're going to get together every week. We believe this is going to be the time, but it may change each week. But Thursday at 5:30 Eastern Time, a relevant, don't ask us to debate the greatest college football team in history. We may get to that during the offseason, but we want it to be more in the moment, whatever's going on right now. But we are surveying topics because you guys will do a much better job than me selecting a topic each week. And hopefully Steve and I will have differing opinions on it so we can have a debate, but we will debate for 10 minutes solid. Then we will respond to your comments and questions in the chat for a 30-minute The One each and every week.
Yeah. So is this going to be, this can be about any topic?
Sure.
In college football?
College football.
Okay. And it's like a back and forth type show, like, so everybody's going to have equal time, and, you have your like,
I don't think that Mark's getting equal time. Come on, we've seen this thing go down.
Well, I have come up with a strategy to combat that. So let's all understand that when I go on Steve's show, it's Steve's show. When he comes on my show, I kind of play the interviewer. I figure I can spew out my opinions all night, every day if I want to. I can be on here. I can strike up a live stream anytime I want and go off. So I just play interviewer, and I want to hear from Steve because he doesn't get a chance to be on here often. But now that we've got a formal show, me versus him on a debate topic, I realize what the inequity of Steve's got a gift of gab that I don't have. That's all there is to it. He can talk about a light bulb for 25 minutes. I can't do that. I'll tell you the light bulb, needs electricity and it's shaped this way. And I'll give you the 3 bullet points and then I'm done. So what we'll do is I will be in charge of the conversation and I will state my opinion first and then I will give it to Steve.
There you
Mark,
go.
if he ever rambles, what I would suggest you do is just say, hey, do you want to talk about TCU versus Michigan?
Yeah, that's going to be my go-to. Okay.
I mean, that was a competitive, like,
that was a good game.
And his response is going to be, or do you want to talk about the last 2 Ohio State games?
That's exactly what he's. Maybe we should ask on Patreon. We should put it up in the Discord. What do you guys want to talk about for the?
You guys always have better ideas than I do. Absolutely.
Make it a Discord Patreon feature. And by the way, Patreon, $5, and we're talking about this kind of stuff all the time behind the scenes. Is like, how are we? How to really bring that value? Because $5, I mean, find it in your couch cushions instead of going and getting that coffee one time. Go check out the Patreon, because stuff like this is happening every day. We have watch parties, we have get-togethers, we have our After Dark show, which we'll bring back to talk about the playoffs and everything. So you can be a panelist on the After Dark show if you're a Patreon member. So there's a lot of good stuff. and it's on the scrolling banner underneath here right now, and I'll post the link. Just consider throwing the $5. It really does help Mark. It helps the channel.
Yeah, we're talking about doing an off season. We're going to fire up some of the most interesting games, controversial games from this year to do little watch parties on the Discord. So feel free to join us that way. College football goes year round, so that's up to you if you're a big college football fan.
All right.
USC also hurt my prediction record today. That's for sure. Thought I had that all set, covering the 1.5, but no.
That was a weird game.
So it looks like we got George in the chat. So George wants to say hi. So I just
George.
shot that. Yeah, we always love a good George cameo.
Joey's here. Joey's all over the place. You guys are all over the place. I am just coming to realize that you guys are on channels that I don't even know exist. Joey shot me a text today. He's like, what about this channel? And I'm like, I've never heard of the guy. I have no idea who you're talking about. Not that he could be the greatest guy in the world. I don't know.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Jason, for looks like Jason's going to be joining the Discord. That means another Michigan fan. So all of you non-Michigan fans, do you really want there to be so many Michigan people representing and your team isn't as much represented? I hear that all the time.
I would like to take a poll in the
more.
Discord to get a fan representation in Discord to see what the count is. I'm going to do that as well. So do we think it's pretty balanced? I'm sure it could be better.
Between Buckeyes and Wolverines? I'm counting a lot of Wolverines.
Okay. I want it balanced across college football. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. As much as I love Wolverine fans, like I'd love to see some more Buckeyes, some more Pac-12 that aren't, USC so much. So I'd love to see some more Pac-12 schools come in and Big 12 schools, SEC.
I think my conference, I think it's pretty balanced. There's some, I think there's 4 Trojans. There's a lot of Michigan. How many Michigan are there? I don't know. There's a lot of Michigan.
There's a lot.
So yeah, Buckeyes, you guys, if you guys want to bring balance back to the force, man, you guys got to hop in and pony up that whole $5 a month. You guys, some of you guys spent more than that on your super chat. $5 a month gets you Discord for me. I mean, I'm checking it every day as soon as I can at lunchtime. The first thing I go to is to check the Discord because there's always a really good conversation going on. So please join us. It's not all Wolverines and USC fans. There's over 100 of us. And I would say, I mean it, that there's SEC, there's Big 10, you got all the conferences. You can go down the list. There's even some non-Power 5 guys in there. So you should come check it out. It's a lot of fun.
And I'd like to make it clear to anyone, you join Patreon in the Discord, and I am open for requests, recommendations, anything that you got, any kind of suggestions. These guys are throwing me suggestions all the time and that I need to move on. So I want to hear your whether that's about the channel, whether that's about content, anything that you've got requests or recommendations about.
Yes, Erica. So just to clear this up, Patreon is the overarching kind of membership, program, etc. that we do. And then within that, when you spend the $5, you get perks, like you get access to the Discord chat, like you get access to watch parties and betting guide and all of that stuff. So the Discord chat is one of the membership benefits of Patreon.
To answer David Greenshield's super chat, David, we love you. Thanks for being here as always, sir. What was the Big Ten's final record in bowls? I tweeted out earlier tonight all the conference records, or all the Power 5 conference records. There was no decisive winner here, but you had the ACC and the Big Ten at 5-4, the SEC at 6-5, Pac-12 went 3-4, and the Big 12 went 2-6.
So you're telling me the SEC won the most amount of bowl games?
But it did not have the best winning percentage, is what I'm saying. It had the third best winning percentage to real. Do some math.
I'm
Get out
doing
the
raw
calculator.
numbers. I didn't ask for winning percentage.
Winning percentage.
Raw numbers.
Winning percentage. You have a chance to take over the winning percentage if Georgia wins the national championship game, if we want to consider that a bowl game.
Just another feather in the cap as to why the SEC is probably the best conference.
Okay, I will say this. Okay, yes, and yes, it is. But it's not like it was 4 or 5 years ago.
You didn't hear me, Tim, when I said, have you seen the Belmont Stakes with Secretariat in it?
I'm not a big horse racing fan, no.
Well, that's the gap between the SEC and everyone else in my mind. It is massive.
You're going to be shocked coming up in the next couple of years with NIL. Things are changing. Things really are.
Yeah, the SEC is probably going to get better with Texas and Oklahoma.
I bet I'm thinking, and I am saying this now from what I've seen, I think it's going to be a wash.
We currently have George and Joey waiting in the wings. Joey, come on back. Joey dumped out. Joey, come on back if you can hear me. We'll bring you in. We've got George here. George. Say Gator fan George.
Oh my God. I don't know if I've ever been on with the legendary George.
Yes.
I don't think you have, but
that's awesome, man.
I'm just here to listen to you guys talk about football. This is great.
George was making thousands of comments to this channel when you guys didn't even know I existed.
I personally got Uncle Lou and several other channels to be famous. I hammered that shit for years, but now I'm backing off. Once they got over you, I went crazy. I used to make like 62 comments in a row, you know.
That's called a monologue. That's not really talking.
It was funny. I'm 62 years old. I couldn't believe I understood how this computer thing works. I'm like, this is great.
Is that Joey? There's Joey.
I can talk to myself.
Joey.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey, Joey.
Yeah, you got your video back. Nice.
George has been around for a lot of years, and he has been hammering everybody's channels. That's for sure. George comes up with
right, but now I'm leaving room. I'm leaving room for the young people now to take over.
Thank you, David Greenshield. I'm gonna thank you for your $2, even though you're saying we don't need more Michigan fans. I'm still gonna thank you for your $2. And if Buckeye fans want to brigade the Discord, or West Virginia, or Florida, or Kentucky if all your Kentucky buddies want to come on, and I don't care. You know, it just helps. It helps Mark, so it doesn't matter to me who you root for.
I tell you, I'm going to say this. So I had picked TCU to beat Michigan, and that was because of TCU's speed. I mean, without a doubt, they're probably the fastest team in the country. And Michigan recruiting that size, so I had to pick TCU, but against Georgia, I can't do that. I have to say Georgia, because they have the speed too. So I'm gonna have to say Georgia in that game.
I agree. I think they matched the speed and they got way more. You're going to see a lot of dominance up front in that game. I think you said it, so I don't feel like too bad, John. I thought you said that Georgia's just a better Michigan. And
I think at various points I have, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, what you're going to see is what TCU was able to exploit with Michigan. I think that they're going to find they're going to have 5 stars at every position on that front 7, or so damn close to it. That's going to make some of what they did a little harder to do. I think it'll be a lot.
I've got a ton of respect for
Mark.
TCU, and I'll just say this real quick, Joey. But like Joey, I wasn't brave enough to pull the trigger. That was my thought. I thought TCU had an advantage in the secondary and at wide receiver, just in space, period, on both sides of the ball. And Max Duggan presented something that Michigan hasn't seen this year. But Ohio State should be kicking itself. No disrespect to TCU, but Ohio State not taking care of Georgia when they could have, playing for a national championship on Monday night, because I think they would get the job done.
Yeah, I just think that up front, I think in the trenches, Georgia will win in the trenches, and then on the secondary, in the secondary, they've got the speed in the secondary to keep up with those wide receivers and shut them down. So that's where I think Georgia will win this game. They won't hold TCU out of the end zone. I think TCU will score some points, but it's not. You know, is it going to be a blowout? I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I can see, you know, a 7-point win, maybe even a 10-point win by Georgia.
Yeah, the passing games could be the difference. I saw what Ohio State was able to do through the air, and I don't think TCU will be able to replicate that.
No.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I somewhat agree. I think Georgia wins pretty early on. I think we're just going to see a speed and talent gap between the two teams. I think Georgia wins 56-21, something in that range.
Wow.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Wow.
I don't know about that. No.
Wow.
That's crazy.
DeReal, you were picking or projecting Tennessee would beat TCU by a score like that a few weeks ago. So you fill in any SEC team.
And they're going to win by 56. I mean, they're going to have 56 points on the board. I think it's going to be closer than that. Got to give TCU a lot of credit. But I will say this. I think that their goal was to just do everything they could to beat Michigan, especially after some of the comments that people in the Michigan program and like the media and the things were saying about how much more physical. And I was even saying it, like, in the trenches, I thought we had the better line play. We had the better this, that, and the other. And that might still be true on paper. But they went all out to throwing haymakers and forcing us to be on the back foot. They gave everything they had in that game. And for those reasons, I think that was their goal, was to get the W. And I mean, would they like to win the national championship? Of course. But I think that there's also a little bit of realism that Georgia, you know, is the reigning national champion. They do have a lot more talent on all sides of the ball. So I think that for those reasons, Georgia wins a 10 to 14 point ball game.
Mark, if it makes you feel any better, I think Ohio State would probably beat TCU by a similar score.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm confident Ohio State would win the game, but I think that would be a heck of a game.
Yeah.
What's the point spread?
13.
I think it's about right. I think it'll be like that. It'll be like I think it'll stay like that. I think it'll be a close game. I think it's a little bit wider towards the end of the game because teams don't play the same when they're playing from behind late in the game. So they're gonna, in my opinion, probably try to press an issue, and I think that Georgia will score like some points late to make it a little wider.
For the first, I would never take a 13-point spread ever in the history of the world, but for the first time ever, I think I'll take Georgia and give up the 13 points.
Erica's been
Wow.
lobbing them today. I got to give her that.
Georgia scored 21 points on Florida in 2 minutes a couple years ago. They're like, you know, this might be a blowout. This might be like 50-7 or something, you know?
Yeah, I think Georgia
I don't
has
foresee-
a really
and
good.
Here's why is TCU's played some tough games this year as far as like having to come back on teams. Just today, Mark Rogers talking to the TCU woman, I can't remember her name, in his video. If you haven't seen that video, go and watch that. They were talking, and she was talking about how TCU has had to come back in a lot of games this year. You know, they get down by 14, even 21 points, and they don't sweat it. They just keep playing TCU football, and they get right back in the game. So, and I don't see them panicking against Georgia either. If Georgia gets up on them by 14 points, I don't think TCU will panic. They'll keep playing TCU football and have a shot to come back in that game. that's why I don't think Georgia will beat them by more than 10 points. I do see a victory for Georgia, but just 7 to 10 points.
Hey, Mark, name one great quarterback that has ever defeated Stetson Bennett, the 5th or whatever his name is.
Who has ever defeated Stetson Bennett?
One great quarterback, anybody, any superhero quarterback ever beat Stetson Bennett, the dwarf?
Bryce Young,
the 4th?
Mac Jones, Kyle Trask.
No. Okay, there you go. No, listen,
gotta go back a couple of years, but it's happened.
Hey, listen, Stetson Bennett is 25-1 as a starter, so I'm gonna have to go with the dwarf.
So Stetson Bennett obviously lost the SEC championship game to Bryce Young last year. Okay, so there's one.
That didn't hurt him.
And I will.
That was a free game. That was a free game
that I'm referencing from 20.
They were ordered to lose to Alabama that game. That's the only reason that happened.
Wait, Darrell.
So I'm going to.
The question for you, Darrell, was: will Georgia win because they're in the SEC?
Well, they happen to be an SEC team, but I think they happen to be one of the most talented teams in the country. They've probably got the best head coach in the country, probably the best staff in the country, probably the best offensive and defensive lines in the country, one of the best defenses all around in the country. Brock Bowers, I don't think TCU has seen anybody like him, mainly because I don't think there is anybody like him. I mean, Brock Bowers might have 150 yards in this game. That would not shock me. He's a beast.
He had 64 against Ohio State.
Mark,
he's a great player. Absolutely.
Ohio State to me and TCU are still, I think TCU's talent level and Ohio State's talent level are still two different entities.
I think Mark would even tell you that the strength of the Buckeyes is not their secondary. No. So I mean, I'm not.
To set the record straight, George, on the whole Stetson Bennett thing, yes, he lost to Bryce Young last year. Yes, he lost a game to Mac Jones, and he might as well have started. He played the significant snaps. I don't know if he started against Florida when they lost to Kyle Trask.
You're right.
So
you're right.
If we listen to Darrell, the SEC is never going to lose another game as long as they're the SEC. I mean. They're unbeatable.
Realistically, hey, listen, realistically, as far as handicapping the game goes, I think Georgia will score one touchdown in every quarter. That's 28 points. And I think they'll get a defensive touchdown. That's 35. And they might get a field goal somewhere, maybe 38, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think TCU will get more than 17 points. If you add 13 to that, that's 30. I would take I'd take the points. I'd bet Georgia.
I don't think they'll hold TCU under 30. I think TCU is.
That's all they have 30. Well,
I don't know about that, Joey. I can see a world where TCU does not score 30.
It's almost like free money. It's too tempting. Maybe the fix is in. I don't know. Georgia should decimate TCU, decimate them. They might only score 7.
Well, that's what I thought about Michigan, TCU, and then TCU just came up and punched us in the face a bunch of times. So I don't know what to think anymore.
Michigan's not Georgia.
True. I'll give you that.
Well,
and
considering
Michigan didn't have Stetson Bennett the 4th.
True.
Nobody can see him. They don't know where he's at. He's so small that
have we just discovered that he's the 4th? I'm just hearing this recently. Stetson Bennett the 4th.
Yeah.
We should Google that. Can somebody Google right now Stetson Bennett the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and
I'm sure there were 3 other Stetson Bennetts to get to that point.
George is about to remind me that I missed out on my marketing idea of the gnome that George was going to produce.
We could have been rich. We could have. It's not too late, guys. It's not too late. You can still do this.
George, did you see TCU scoring 51 points on Michigan?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm not a Michigan booster.
Yeah, that's actually true. You've been very,
look,
down
when
the
the
middle
Pope
about
when
it.
the Pope died.
Did anybody see that?
The day of the game,
I had no idea that was going to happen.
The Pope was propping up Michigan because Jim Harbaugh flew over there. But when he died the day before the game, you knew. It's over.
The white smoke. The white smoke wasn't coming.
Right.
Amazing blue smoke wasn't coming out.
I'm gonna hop out of here, but I'm gonna do something before I go, because Mark's always telling us, hey, if you do something, go ahead and promote it and things. Joey is finally starting a channel. It's called College Football News Hour, and I'm finally decided to do that, and it's going to be me and Jeff Grimm. I'll throw the link down in the chat. I'd like for everybody to sub it up. Help me get to 100 subs. We're starting the channel January the 9th. So, hey, I promoted myself for a change. I promoted me.
There we
for a
go.
change.
So now I know to go to Joey's channel to get the news, and then I'll come over here and talk about it.
We're going to go live every day on weekdays at 3:00, and for an hour and a half, we're going to discuss transfer portal, coaching changes, things like that. That's what we're going to discuss mainly, and because that's always changing. And we'll probably throw in a few NIL deals. We're going to talk about things that people aren't talking about in other shows. I mean, I know everybody hits on the transfer portal here and there, but like we're going to take one certain team or two certain teams in one day and talk about everybody that they've picked up out of the portal, everybody that they're losing to the portal or lost to the portal, their recruiting, where they rank, how good the players are. We're going to look at that in depth on each team, and we'll hit every Power 5 team. So,
will you be covering every school that Narduzzi accuses of tampering?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
We'll be covering all
the
the
schools that he says he could beat, because he said he could win the entire Big Ten conference. So,
yeah.
Did USC lose to Toledo today?
No, they did not.
Did USC lose to Toledo, or who the fuck? What the?
Lane.
George, you know what day it is? George,
I don't even know the name of the school. I don't even know the name of the school. Who did they lose to?
Tulane.
Mighty Green Wave.
Tulane.
George.
Hey, listen. Do you know where Tulane is?
Louisiana, George.
It's in Louisiana, but what part of Louisiana is it in? Come on.
New Orleans.
You don't know where Tulane is?
No.
New Orleans? Just outside New Orleans?
Thank you. It's in New Orleans. Yeah. What part of New Orleans is Tulane in? What happens if you step off campus in Tulane? You're immediately raped and killed. That's where Tulane is. Tulane is in the one place in New Orleans you don't want to go. You have to get like an armored car to leave campus. I swear to God.
George.
I went to New Orleans and it was awesome.
Listen, Tulane has the highest murder rate in the country. This is like a 4-mile square area. You can't walk outside.
Night, Joey.
Don't go. Love you.
New Orleans. I went to New Orleans a couple years ago for a conference. Had a great time. The beignets are top notch. If you go to Cafe Du Monde, get the beignets. Good time.
Nice.
I agree.
But just
there is absolutely no law there, guys. You don't know. It's not like where you live. There are no laws there. You're on your own risk. Anything you do, go to the store. I dare you. That's the part of New Orleans it's in. My brother's wife is a traveling nurse. He called me every single day he was there 6 months ago. He was like, "Oh my God, George, 3 people just got killed outside my door. It was like every day it was like car chases, and it's insane. It's off the hook. It's just no man's land.
But Captain Genius did mention that they have some great jambalaya. So
no, they have the team that beat USC.
And also that.
Fuck the beignets. They beat USC in a bowl game. And, oh my God.
Merry Christmas.
I'm doing this because of Tim. I'm rubbing it in.
It's all right.
This is
God
the one
damn,
time
Tim.
that our show
Heisman Trophy winning quarterback and everything.
George, what was your guys' record this year?
Florida
those guys.
Florida gave themselves the death penalty. I don't want to talk about that no more.
Who does Uncle Luke call your coach? I forgot what he called
Sunbelt Billy. I'm so pissed.
Reality's better than fiction. Reality's better than fiction, George.
I'm predicting we win at least 3 games next year.
You got some lofty goals.
There you go.
George.
Think big. That's what I always say. Think big.
They're not doing it to me again, man. I'm not like Miami. I'm not betting we win 10 games.
George, it's time to pull the ripcord, buddy.
I'm an Oregon State Beaver fan. I need to change my logo.
Paige Connor.
Yes.
We just got a convert to the Beavers. Connor's in chat too.
Joey, you missing this? This is just for your news hour. You just got some news right here breaking on Mark Rogers. George is no longer a Gator. He's a Beaver.
Wow.
Oregon
George,
State
do you
Beavers.
even know who Oregon State's quarterback is?
That guy, DJ Ugalele.
Give him some credit for that.
There you go. Good job.
You pulled through with the most
he gets the
recent
amount of syllables, but I'm not sure beyond that. I think he hit the syllables.
Hey, listen. As soon as they expand to a 12-team playoff, the Beavers are going to be in there every year. Watch. They're going to go like 10-2, 11-1.
Guys, I'm gonna hop off to give everybody some breathing room, and I think I've been on the longest anyway. So thanks everybody, and don't forget, like I said before, join the Patreon, $5. Amazon link also great. Got an air fryer, so been talking about that. So do the Amazon, join the Patreon, all that good stuff, and go
thanks,
blue.
John.
I'm with you, John. I'm heading out as
Happy
well.
New Year, John.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'll see all you guys later.
Appreciate it, Tim. Thanks, John.
Yeah, I'll leave with them. Fight on, Tim.
Thanks to Real. George, we're going to give you the parting shot of the night.
I wanted to talk to Tim and ask him what the hell just happened. I can't believe this. I'm in shock.
USC losing to us.
Yeah.
They made some boneheaded moves down the stretch and lost the game, but USC's on the rise.
So what do you think about the Georgia 13-point thing?
I'm going to have to think that one over, but if somebody held a gun to my head right this second, I would lay the 13. Yes, I'll take Georgia, lay the 13.
It's just a big gamble either way. It's just a toss a coin in the air. But if you add in just a little bit of intelligence and insight, it might be over in the first quarter, you know?
George, by the way, now that you bring up gambling and bring up predictions, I don't think since you haven't been on the channel much here this season, I think you were my good luck charm, because it seemed like every time you were on here telling everybody that I never missed a pick, I wasn't missing any picks, but I had a pretty down season.
Did you really? Well, no. That's not your fault, man. It went crazy. Shit went off the rails this year. It's not your fault. There was no way anybody could have predicted this shit this year.
Plus, I made most of my picks about 3 minutes before kickoff.
Yeah.
I just kind of threw them out there.
This year, you have to take everything you know into consideration and all the statistics and the facts, and then cross your eyes and just stick your finger on a piece of paper and make a pick. You know, there's no way you can't. There's no way anymore. Can't do it unless you really, really know. If you could do 2 games a week, you'd be lucky. Let alone picking across the board.
Oh, I pick them all. Yeah, that doesn't help the winning percentage, but I just figure, hey,
Mark, I picked 4 games one week in pro football, and I parlayed it, and I won so much money. And I've only done it once in my life. Huh?
Why wouldn't you go back and do it again?
I've only done it once. My family was desperate for money, and I thought my family needs me. I can do this. And I went and placed a bet, and I won. And I've never done it again because I'm not desperate. You know, it's like,
yeah, I don't recommend anyone try to get rich playing parlay sheets.
$100 4-game parlay. That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
I forget how much is that? Like 28,000 or something. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it was a lot.
Yeah,
I was playing with the bookies, so it's different. But
all right, George, we're gonna wrap it up for the night. We've been going at it for what, 2:32. All right, George.
I would just like to say, God bless everybody. Happy New Year. More power to TCU if they can do it. TCU proved that we should put some more schools in the playoff, right? You know,
maybe.
So we're up to 8 now, but they already said 12. 12's not fair. We need to go to 16, get it over with.
You're right. It's not fair.
Right? It's not fair. That's a whole nother story, though.
8 or 16, folks. 8 or 16.
8 or 16. I can't believe they said 12. They're just messing with me, Mark. They know what upsets me. It's the New World Order just messing with me. 12? Like somebody gets a bye in a football game? You got to be kidding me, man. It's the stupidest shit I ever heard in my life.
All right, George.
They're doing everything they can. They're trying to ruin football, but we're going to hold it up as long as we can and keep going.
Thanks, everyone, for being here. Iowa show at 5:30 Eastern on Tuesday. Nebraska at 7. I've got some ideas for some Michigan, Ohio State content in regards to their most excruciating losses and where these wins over the weekend rank. And we will get to that soon. George, appreciate you being here.
Are there any more games before the national title game?
No, that's it. Just the
national championship
game. Yep.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, George. And once again, I want to remind everyone that coming up on Thursday, we have our show coming up here with Steve Dace, The One. It premieres live Thursday, an action-packed, full throttle half hour. So we're not going to be sitting around for 3 hours, 3.5 hours. You need to be there on time, 5:30 Eastern time. Steve Dace and myself with The One, meaning one topic. We go at it for 10 minutes. We take your comments and questions, your sponsored comments and questions. So understand that we are working for a living. So sponsored comments and questions. And we're going to try to get this show sponsored as well. And so if you have a topic that you would like Steve and I to debate, we are going to take one scoop suggestion, which was a great one. And we're going to offer that up in the Discord on our Patreon, Voice of College Football Community. And we're going to ask everyone there what they would like us to debate this week and beyond. Right here at the Voice of College Football. Next show, Tuesday, 5:30 Eastern, Iowa show with Corey Bratta on the Iowa channel. See you then.